Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Today is August 7th, 2022, and our title today is What Seeds Are You Planting? And I'm going to begin with a reading by Ernest Holmes from 365, and it's entitled The Protecting Power of the Infinite Sustains Me. As a child turns to its parents for comfort, so every one of us is relying on God, whether we realize it or not. This concept is so universal that it has been present in every age with all people and at all times. So we want to, didn't you just turn down my volume?
No, turn down the speakerphone.
Sorry about that. There are two of us here.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that our participants have muted themselves right now. So as I was saying, Jesus dared to place his hand serenely in the hand of the invisible. His works justified his words. His faith was manifested through his acts. Nothing has happened to reality since this glorious figure walked into the highways of human experience. With equal confidence, you should believe in the protecting presence of the ever available spirit.
It's on the, it's just on my phone, yeah.
Please mute yourselves. Today we are to hold your thoughts steadfast in the realization that God withholds nothing from you. Therefore, prepare yourself for a life of joy, love, happiness, and well-being.
Your what?
This you may say to yourself, and please mute yourself, everyone. Say, I know that the law of God surrounds me with love and friendship. I let it radiate in my environment. Bless everything I touch. Make whole that which is weak. Turn fear into faith and accomplish the miracle of healing through love. I welcome the opportunity to love fully, completely, and joyfully. I believe in myself because I believe in God. I accept life fully, completely, without reservation, holding to the conviction that good is the eternal reality, that God is the everlasting presence, and that Christ within me is the eternal guide, that my life is complete today. And so it is.
Well, it's powerful reading.
It is. And it fits in with what we're talking about. We have sort of a combined theme today. We're talking about the earth and our oneness with all that is here. And we are talking about what we can do to help the earth and all humanity by planting seeds of love. And so I would like to start with a quote from Carl Sagan. And he said Carl Sagan wrote these words, that's here, that's home, that's us. He was talking about the view of the galaxy. Carl Sagan wrote these words that take on new meaning as NASA continues to release images from the James Webb Telescope. We can now see 13 billion light years away to when the universe was new. What a privilege it is to be alive, to be here right now together on this planet that obviously began 13 billion light years away. It's pretty amazing to contemplate. And of course, we've been seeing some of those wonderful
That's like before,
images.
that's before cell phones.
Exactly. And Carl Sagan also said there's perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human vanity than this distant image of our world. It underscores our responsibility to be more kind with each other and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Wow.
Pretty impressive. Pretty immense. Though it's interesting, he was talking about being kind to one another as well.
I hate to keep harping on it, but for those, we haven't, for some reason, they've changed the format of our screen, so we can't find the mute to mute everybody. So please.
Zoom has changed.
Yeah, Zoom has changed. So if you're not muted, mute yourself because we're hearing conversations in the background. And although we'd like to join in, we really need to do this first. So
Let's see, we have some messages here that I want to see.
Yeah, Elizabeth, please mute.
Can you hear
Thank
me?
you. Thank you, Guruna.
Can you hear me?
All right, so.
I mean, I muted
Um,
5 minutes ago. Fuck.
when we talk about seeds
Mhm.
that we're planting, we really are referring to anything that you're creating, and you're always creating with your thoughts and your feelings. But we want to emphasize that we all want to be planting seeds of kindness and love because the rewards are so great. But we want to start with a story about a man in India. You want me to read that too? It says, what used to be a landscape devastated by erosion is now 1,360 acres of forest in, it's hard for me to pronounce the name, Kokilamuk, India. And it's all thanks to one Indian man named Jadev Payeng. Jadev planted a tree every single day for 40 years. And now this man-made forest, bigger than, the next page,
It's bigger than Central
bigger
Park.
than Central Park.
Yeah.
Thank you. This incredible forest is home to hundreds of elephants, rhinos, boars, reptiles, and birds. This botanical enthusiast says he's planning to plant trees until his last breath. Nature is God. It gives me inspiration. It gives me power. As long as it survives, I survive. Referring to nature.
You know, what is important for me in that is that the planting the seed of kindness as a part of whatever it is you're planting. You're planting a new idea, you're planning for something that you want to do, but planning for it or moving in the direction of whatever you want to move in the direction of with kindness, that's the fertilizer for the idea. That's the thing that makes it, nurtures it and nourishes it. And if you've ever had an idea and you shared it with somebody and you wanted them to say something positive and they said, oh no, that'll never work. I don't even know why you're thinking about that. That doesn't fertilize the seed or generate the condition in which if that seed can't grow, something like it can. And so the seed ideas are really, really important. We plant seeds all of the time, but imagine if every day when you got up in the morning, you said, I have a pocket full of seeds and each one of these seeds is kindness. And when I plant it, wherever I plant it, it will grow long after I've left it. It will grow into the future. It will grow forever. And I'm going to share a short story with you that is that kind of seed. I was working in the emergency room some years back, and a young man came in, and he came into the emergency room because he was suicidal. And because he was suicidal, they wanted me to see him. So I saw him. And I normally would see a person for half an hour, possibly 40 minutes. And that was about all I had because in that 8-hour period of time, a lot of people would come through that I would need to see. I saw him, talked to him, and then set him aside and said, oh, we'll talk with you some more a little bit later, as opposed to sending him home.
Mhm.
Each time I talked with him, I found more of him that had, to me, value and that was extraordinary and really quite beautiful as a human being. I didn't tell him that. It wouldn't have been appropriate, but I reacted to that beauty and to that sense of who he was with positiveness. And I talked with him again. And the fourth time I talked to him, I said, do you think you're ready to go home now? And is it going to be safe for you? And he said it would be. He went home and I didn't hear anything else from him. Now that's the seed that was planted. The seed of kindness was planted, the seed of compassion, the seed of empathy, the seed of listening. All really important seeds in his garden that we're planting. About a month and a half later, I got a letter through the emergency room from him that he had to me. And he said, I was planning after the second time you talked with me, hoping that you would finally give up on me so I could go home and kill myself. But after the fourth time, I realized that I wasn't going to kill myself, but that also you were doing something that I wanted to be able to do also. I planted a seed. And so he said, thank you. And I feel like you've given me my life. Well, the truth is I planted a seed and he gave himself permission to have his own life. The most amazing thing was that he then notified me that he was going to go to college to become a social worker. Great. 4 years later, I got an invitation to his graduation. He had graduated from a social work school and was now going to be in private practice or in practice doing the kind of thing I had done. And he said, you have no idea when you planted that idea that it changed my life. See, and what I want you to hear though, is then everybody that he helped was part of the seed that I had planted. that seed, once planted, that seed of kindness, once planted, will grow and grow and grow. Now, will everybody come back and tell you wonderful stories about yourself? No, actually, I had one client who said, I don't like you. And I said, I understand that. And I'm never going to like you. And I said, I understand that. So can I get another therapist? And I said, actually, no. And you're not liking me doesn't mean we can't work together. He said, that's a good point. So we worked together for the better part of a year. At the end of a year, he said, you've helped me a lot and I still don't like you. And I said, well, since not liking me is not a part of the equation, he said, I may never like you. And I said, I'm not growing any fonder of you either. But, the truth is, we can do the work where we can plant the seeds we need to plant, even when the soil seems a bit hard. Even when the soil doesn't seem to be inviting, we can still plant kindness. And if you plant enough kindness, you will be surrounded by the kindness as a forest that you planted. And imagine looking back 40 years from now and saying, all of those trees of kindness that are now flowering and blossoming, that have now created a new world that we can live in, I had something to do with that. I started that. So I'm asking all of you this week to imagine that you've got a pocket full of seeds and each one of them is filled with kindness, and you're looking for somebody to give it to. Now, I don't care what the condition is that you're in. I care about the condition of the seeds and your willingness to give those seeds to other people. And what you're going to notice when you do that is when you carry the seeds of love and kindness to other people and allow them to savor and enjoy that, you become lighter and you become less worried and less the person who you don't want to be than you were before.
Exactly. When we were talking about this, it said every day plant kindness and show kindness and love to everyone that you meet, because you also raise your vibrations when you do that. When you are loving, when you are kind, you're creating more love and peace and joy in the world. And that's how we affect race consciousness. Every thought, every feeling vibrates, and then like attracts like in the whole world.
Yeah.
And so we can be adding to the peace and joy of our planet, or we can be adding, if we focus on, oh my God, isn't that awful? Isn't that terrible? Or what we don't like about what's happening in the government or the world politics or global warming or whatever. We focus on that. Our thoughts are attracted to other thoughts. And then with race consciousness, we create more problems in the world. So we really need to be responsible. And I'm talking to myself as well here.
Yeah, we're both talking to ourselves.
I need to be responsible and focus on the good and the positive and the loving to create more of that. We want to create peace on earth. This is our one little blue dot, as Carl Sagan said, and we want to help it achieve peace and love.
But what you said earlier, and I think it was in the reading or in our conversation, which to me was really very important, is that when you plant the seed over here, the seed will also then grow over there where you didn't plant it.
Right.
And that is contagious. It's a state of kindness that grows and grows and grows and grows on the planet. And you've known this. You've been in a room with other people when somebody walked in that was so full of kindness they couldn't help but spill it on everybody.
Mhm.
And you couldn't wait to stand near them so that you could be one of the persons who got some of that kindness, because you couldn't figure out necessarily what it was, but you knew for sure you wanted some of that. That becomes contagious. In some ways, it's like a mighty tree that's been planted, and the tree doesn't do anything other than sit there quietly. And then you look at the branches and you see there's 1,000 different kinds of life in those branches.
Yeah.
And that it takes up the water from the ground that no one can see and then gives it to it's incredible. And you see the cycle of life, the tree doesn't appear to be doing anything. And I share that with you because I have a friend.
And doesn't appear to be sentient, and yet it is.
Yes, and I share that with you because I have a friend right now, and some of you know our friend who is struggling with some really, really difficult health issues. And those health issues could very well end up being fatal. And that is the condition. In fact, life is fatal. We're all going to die from it. But this person has been struggling and struggling and struggling with it. And I was talking to another person who happens to have been watching some of our programs and listening in to what's been going on. And this is what that person said about the individual who's been struggling with cancer. She's my hero. I said, what do you mean she's your hero? That she has done what she has done, that she's changed her mind the numbers of times that she has to do what she's had to do, that she's been virtually homeless and seemingly unloved and uncared about and has persevered, is such an inspiration to me that I want to be able to do that too. And I said, well, why is this person so important? She said, because I just got diagnosed. And the diagnosis I have will not be the same diagnosis I had before I heard of her and I listened to her and I heard her courage. Okay, so you may not feel the courage that you're sharing with other people. You may not feel the good that you're sharing with other people, but you're a part of it. And I don't know that this will come back full circle for her and that she'll get the feedback from that individual because it was shared in confidence. But what's true is that you make a difference even in the worst day of your life, even in the most difficult day of your life.
Yeah. Now, don't should on yourself about this, because when we were preparing this talk and I was thinking
Yeah.
about it and it said, show kindness every day. I thought, oh, did I show kindness to anyone yesterday? I don't think I did.
I don't remember.
And then I remembered, oh yes, we were in the pool and there was a little Hispanic boy and his mother and grandmother, and he was a hyperactive little, I would say 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And I took my hat off, so I put my swim gear on, and he, after a while, promptly put it in the pool, which wasn't what I
He
wanted.
tried to draw on her hat. I wanted to make an example of him, but Judith said no.
And he was doing all sorts of things that
No boundaries.
no
rules.
boundaries, running around and all this stuff. And I spoke to him in Spanish, let him borrow some of my swim gear, and just laughed with him and his mom. And I thought later, that was an act of kindness, rather than old people fussing at the little ones who are hyperactive and all that stuff, just enjoying his play and his activity. And so, not that you have to count them up. I know our audience. I know that you're kind to people, but what we need to stay focused on the idea of what we want to do is create peace and love for our earth and for ourselves.
So the question then could move from, and sometimes it's easier to be kind to other people than it is to be kind to yourself. But then the question would be, are you treating yourself with kindness? Are you living in the kind of kindness that you feel good about? Is your
That's
life
true.
being kind to you?
Mhm.
And I think very often we put off being kind to ourselves because we're too busy working hard at whatever we're working at, as if kindness is a secondary benefit. Like, it's the icing on the cake, when in fact it's the protein we need for living.
Right.
And so I think what I would ask you to do is ask yourself, am I as kind to myself as I am to other people? I think most of the people we have in our audience don't have trouble being kind to other people. But when it comes to themselves, they can be really, really hypercritical. And I think we grow up having been taught to be critical of ourselves, unfortunately, rather than to be critical and affirming. We can actually be both. So what I would ask you to do this week is ask yourself, in that pocket full of seeds, how many of those seeds, when spread, increase your kindness towards yourself? Are you able to see yourself in a relationship to being a kinder person?
And I'm reading a book called The We Consciousness.
For those of you that don't know Judith that well, she's always reading a book and she's always highlighting that book. And I get to read all of the highlighted parts.
And it's very much in our teaching. Many
Yeah.
of you, when I read these 4 things that you can do to increase peace and love in the world,
Like it.
you are already doing them. But number 1 is, if there are any bad or negative situations in your experience, think about and visualize and feel what it would be like to feel peaceful and loving instead. And that begins the manifestation process. So you think about the opposite. Instead of the problem that you don't want, think about what you do want and feel it and visualize it. And that begins the manifestation process. Number 2 is pray. Pray for inner peace and outer peace. And feel the peace you want to see in the world as if it's already occurring. And say a prayer something like this: thank you, God, for expanding the peace within me and allowing peace to prevail on earth. And then know it's happening.
That ties in with what we talked about last week, which is see it in your mind's eye, say it with your voice, sense it with your heart. What's the next one? See it, say it,
Savor it.
Savor it. That's right. That was the other one we got. And then secure it.
Sing it.
we happen to be fixated on the letter S. And, it's easier if you've got that letter to be able to work that, but seeing it in your mind's eye and then being able to claim it by saying it, you give it your voice, you've given it something more than a thought, you've given it vibration. And when you sense it in your heart and you feel it, there's nothing quite like that positive feeling that goes with an idea that you have that moves you in the direction of more of that. And then you want to savor the taste of that, of course. How does that feel? Now I like that. And then whatever you can do to secure that, which might mean meditating again, it might mean taking some notes as to what it was that worked for you that you want to see more of or you want to do more of. So this becomes an invitation to manifest. But if you think about it, what have you manifested that you didn't see in your mind's eye, didn't say something about, didn't feel something in your heart about, and then secured? When I want to build something, I have to have the idea in my mind. Then I often have to actually secure the tools in order to be able to make that happen, and I do. And once I have all the tools and they're all assembled, then I can secure the result that I want. Now, why that's also important is that when you say you want something, the components necessary for that to come to fruition may not be in that particular moment. But what you've done is you've turned the consciousness on to a search. And the consciousness then will search high and low for the components that it needs to bring that to fruition. Now, the best example that I can think of is how many times have you had somebody say, who is that actor in the movie? And I don't remember who it was. And then 4 hours later, you're laying in bed, almost asleep. Tony Curtis. Well, you see, your brain is going to do a search until it brings it forward to you. What's important to know about that is if your brain is working on something like finding the name of an actor that you thought about 4 hours before, think about what it's doing with all the other thoughts you've had that you have questions about that you want to bring to fruition. So that positiveness is really important. And what I've discovered, and I'm sure you know this as well, is that there's no such thing as neutral. You're positive or forward, you're moving backward or you're moving forward, you're never standing still. Even when you think you're standing still, when you're treading water, what are you doing? You're preparing for drowning because you're not swimming. So you're always in motion towards one thing or another. The question you want to ask yourself is, what is that motion toward? And am I satisfied with it and can I change it?
So I would like to backtrack a little bit and say that this we consciousness is not only that we are one with each other and one with God, but one with all life on earth.
Yeah.
We are one with all the animals, and they are just as important as we are. We are one with all the plants, so we're one with our planet as well as God and each other. And so when we have that awareness, we can't do anything that harms the earth without harming ourselves.
Right. We
We are one with that. And when we understand that, so it's a big concept that a lot of people are very far from understanding, that we are one energy system and everything we do affects all the rest. I said there were 4 things that we can do to practice this we consciousness. The third one is to quiet your thoughts daily so that you can feel the connection with God and everyone. As we call that meditation, to quiet your own thoughts and just be in the silence. Be willing to listen. That's when guidance can come through. And lastly, send love to everyone in your path. And that means people you see physically and just in your experience. By sending love to all, you're raising your own energy and helping those in your path. So I think it starts really with just understanding this concept that we're one with our earth and everything on it. We call it the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, I didn't do that in order, but the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the mineral kingdom. Even our earth is a living.
So our affirmation for today could be, it truly is a wonderful world. And we could add to that, it's truly a wonderful world, and I get to be a part of that wonderful world, and I make a contribution to that wonderful world, and I am part of that wonderful world, and I am filled with wonder. What we could do is play a song right about now.
Oh, okay.
I wonder what we'd choose. Oh, I know.
But we can't play the song and record it.
That's right.
So
for those of you that want to hear the song played legally, you can go to YouTube and you can go to Playing for Change, and you can look for It's a Wonderful World, and you'll get a version of it that's extraordinary.
Well, we'll play it for.
But we're going to
those
play it.
who-
We're going to play it for those of you
stay.
that are here and stay. But for those of you that want to post it on your Facebook page or whatever, and Playing for Change is a great group which I support, and I actually send them money monthly, which makes them able to do what they're doing. And you're welcome to support them too.
And so speaking of support, we
Yes,
also want to
we can use your support.
remind you
Yeah.
that we appreciate your support. What is this? And we know that, oops. So
We're
many.
having some
open-
challenges
Oops, there's my
today.
son.
This is not good.
Well, let's see, so many open windows. Here it is.
There we go.
We know that many of you are already automatically supporting us in these ways, but if we have people watching, which we do later on and in Facebook and whatnot, we invite you also to support the ministry, to support our Center for Spiritual Living of the Palm Beaches. And you can do so by going to our website, which is cslpalmbeaches.org. And then it opens up to this page and there's a ways to donate right there. And these are ways that you can donate to our center.
So let's affirm
So let's
together.
affirm together. My investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied.
multiplied.
And
So it is.
And we thank you for your gifts.
Okay, so let's close that one. And go to the other one. No,
And
we'll
now
stop
let's
recording.
end our recording.